welcome back everybody. Let's just go ahead and go back into the terminal. Now you might have noticed that I spread this across the whole screen, and I'm not sure if this white color is killing you or not. I have also installed VirtualBox guest editions, and I've ran updates, so all I did was yum update. That's it. And I have installed VirtualBox guest editions. The procedure is exactly the same as it is with Red Hat. Now let me just go ahead and do this. So preferences and profiles unnamed. We need to edit that. What shall we place? So colors. Excellent. So I will use exactly the same colors as I have used them there, as I have used them on Red Hat as well. So last time we've tried to install the SSH OpenSSH server, but we have failed. I have failed miserably, primarily because the yum packet manager was actually occupied with a package kit. So what we need to type in is yum again. Let's just go ahead and type in search SSH. The way you would handle that error that we got previously, where we were locked with package kit, is following. Let the search just finish, and then I'll show you. So ps hyphen ef. Actually, we can do this aux grep, and then the name of the process which is occupying your time. So I'm sure you know this option for your case. Package. Now I've killed it, but a moment ago it was actually running. So I've managed to isolate the PID of the process, and then I just wrote kill and then the PID number here. That's it. That's all I needed to do, and then yum ran. I have showed you some of these things and how you can do them in the previous tutorials. So just go ahead and type in yum install now, and where is it? Let's see, which one do we need? An open source implementation of SSH protocol version 1 and 2. I am going to take this one for the time being, and then later on we will install some additional services as well. Oh yeah, of course I need to be root, so let us become root. I tend to forget this from time to time. Common error. It will happen to you as well. There is very little that you will be able to do in order to prevent it, but then again, it's not really an error. You just lose 2 seconds of your time, and that is it. Excellent. So it says package OpenSSH is already installed and latest version. Now this is good news indeed, since we don't need to actually spend any time on the installation, but here is the installation command, the one that is selected now on the screen. So yum install OpenSSH.x8664, and that is pretty much all you really need to do in order to install it. Now let me just see if we need something else. No, I do not believe that we do. Excellent. So let's just go ahead and clear the screen. Oh, by the way, if you're using a 32-bit version, it's you won't get the 64-bit version. Your search will actually return 32-bit versions which you can install. Just the way that the repositories are configured. Anyway, now that we have finished up our installation, we do need to open up our firewall. Now, firewall is a subject which we will cover in a separate tutorial, of course, because it is rather broad and all of that. But for the time being, I will show you a single command and how you can edit IP tables, which is basically a Linux firewall. The very first thing you need to do is go ahead and type in IP tables, which is a command. Do not worry if you do not understand the whole command or if some portions of it remain unclear to you, because as I said, there will be a separate tutorial dealing with Linux Firewall. Linux Firewall is basically IP tables, and I will explain in far greater detail available options there, and I will demonstrate how you can configure firewalls, Linux firewall further. But for the time being, I would like to insert a rule into position 1 insert a rule into accept. Not into accept, into input. So we see there we go, with tab into input at position 1. I would like to specify a protocol which will be TCP, and the port which will be my destination port. This will be 22 because SSH is configured to function on port 22 by default. Furthermore, I will need to type in J, the command. What do we expect the system to do? So accept it. And that's really it. That's all you need to type in. And now port 22, bad argument. Okay, let's go ahead and have a look. IP tables -h. Actually, let's just try this. There we go. So I was just missing one hyphen there, and if we do IP tables -l input, you can see that my very first rule in the chain is TCP with the destination port for SSH. 22 is the standard port for SSH. We will be, of course, able to change that at will to pretty much give it a choice from a wide. We'll be able to give it another port from a wide range of port choices a bit later on. For the time being, you need to punch a hole in your firewall in order for this to work. Otherwise, SSH protocol will not work. I mean, it will work on the server, of course, but nobody will be able to connect to it, which is rather inconvenient. So let's just take a look at this command once again shortly. IP tables is the firewall, and that is the command that you use to edit the firewall. I could have used append here, but instead I have used insert, because insert allows me to specify a position in the chain or in the portion. Let's go ahead and do this again, because I really didn't explain what chains are. To me it comes naturally, but I'm afraid you won't understand what a chain is. I will explain this later, of course. So it's -I, which is for insert, and then input is basically a segment of the firewall. That's all that it is. And what I'm saying, in that segment, take the first position, and in the first position, please please accept, basically here, all packets which are TCP on the destination port of 22. Now this is the basic explanation of what I've just written here, but as I said, this rule you can use as well. You can just retype it from me. This will punch a hole in your firewall and open up a route for SSH, secure shell. And later on I will show you in far greater detail how this command works, what other options you have, and how you can manipulate your firewall rules to your heart's content. Anyway, now that we have indeed done that, I have ran a reset on this machine. So let's just see if it actually contains the same IP address as before. I have config. Doesn't actually have an IP address because networking is disabled. Let's have a look now. I have config. Okay, we have 192.168.1.101. I will now go ahead and open up my Red Hat machine. So it's right here, it should be functional. Excellent, so now we would like to connect to that place. All that you need to type in is SSH space username. Who do you want to be on the remote system? So obviously I want to be creator. at 192.168.1.101, and if I press enter, it will ask me, it will say basically that the authenticity of a host 192.168.1.101 can't be established. The authenticity cannot be established because the fingerprint is not, it doesn't have its key in its own, in the files. There's nothing to compare it with. It doesn't exist. It just means that we've actually never connected to this client before, or to this server before would be a correct way of putting it. So are you sure you want to continue connecting, because we are now going to import this key from somewhere else? And I will type in yes, because I know exactly where I'm logging in. But if you're not certain, or if you don't know, I would definitely suggest that you don't do it, because you're accepting the encryption from somebody, and you're accepting a remote shell basically, because we are going to connect to them via remote shell. But you know, a lot of problems can come to be, because this remote shell works both ways. I mean, if when you type in commands there, you have to get a return output from somewhere else, and there can be a lot of tampering with it. So if you know where you're logging into, go ahead and say yes. If you have no idea where this place is, please say no. There's no need to connect to it. So go ahead and say yes. Now we will be, it says warning, permanently added to the list of known hosts. So the key has been added, the fingerprint that is. And now we will need to actually type in the password here. So test, a fairly simple password, and there we go. We are now logged in. How do you know that we're logged in? Well, ifconfig will show me that IP address, and you're like, well, oh well, you might have typed it in on the Red Hat servers, the Red Hat client as well here. Well, let me show you. Okay, so open the terminal. Come on. I don't think I'll be able to do this. Oh, I actually will. So you see here, it says ifconfig, and then we have the IP address. But here, when we type in ifconfig, we have a completely different IP address. You can also type in who am I. It says creator, and if I type in on my own system who am I, it says random guy. So I have successfully become a completely different person over here as opposed to over there on my own system. Anyway, now we can issue commands like whatever we want. We can create file. You can do everything that we have done thus far in a shell. For example, I can go ahead and touch creator. Oops, I'm doing this the long way around. So home, creator, and now I can perhaps go into downloads, and then in downloads I will go ahead and create hey anybody there. Press enter, and this file has indeed been created there. So let's go ahead, I will minimize this, and now I'm in my CentOS machine. So let's go ahead and go navigate into downloads. A double dot, cd space double dot is go back one folder. Then I'm typing in a slash, and I'm going to type in downloads ls, and you see that there is indeed a file, hey anybody there. Fairly simple protocol to master, not a big deal. You can log in with ease. Now, logging in with passwords is not the best of options. Rather, instead, what we want to do is log in with keys, and we also want to examine the configuration files for SSH, the key files for SSH, etc. All of that we will do in the final and last tutorial in regards to SSH and remote connection to a server or to a client or to wherever you would like to. Anyway, I bid you all farewell, and I hope to see you in the follow-up tutorial.